Resourceful Designer, episode 30. What to do when you mess up a graphic design project.
Welcome to the Resourceful Designer Podcast, offering solutions to streamline your graphic and web design business so you can get back to designing. And now, your host, he insists his keyboards have a number pad on them, Mark DeCote.
Welcome to another episode of Resourceful Designer. I am so happy that you've joined me today. I hope you're having a great week and that you're designing some amazing things. I was having a lot of fun on a project earlier this week. I was designing a logo for a gentleman who teaches firearms safety. And I had provided him with 3 different logos, 3 completely different logo designs for him to review and have a look at and decide what direction he wanted to take. And he got back to me and right off the bat said that option A was off the board, nobody liked it. But the problem was option B and option C were equally liked by everybody he showed. His wife really liked option B and he really liked option C. And he was really torn. Now, both options were completely different logos, nothing at all alike. And I was looking at both of them the other day, trying to decide which one I really liked best. And then all of a sudden it hit me. There was a way for me to combine the best of both logos into one. So I did exactly that. I managed to take a little piece of one. I didn't think at first that there was a way to combine the two just the way they were designed, but I did manage to do that. And the 4th logo that I created, combining those 2 elements, ended up being the best out of all of them. And it really made me feel good as a designer when I had 2 really strong logos that I really liked. And all of a sudden, as I said, it hit me, and combining the 2 and joining some elements and eliminating other elements just brought that 4th logo up to the next level, if you will. And when I showed it to my client, everybody he showed it to absolutely loved it. So it's wonderful when stuff like that happens, when you can bring stuff together and get some sort of epiphany, maybe, if you want to call it that, and combine things that you didn't think had any way to be combined just because of the way you initially created them. So that was my big win for this week, if you want to call it that. And I hope you're experiencing some great wins this week. If you are, leave me a comment in the show notes page for this episode at resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 30. Now, if you want to create another win for yourself, you should pick up my free guide, The 4-Week Marketing Boost, by visiting marketingboost.net. Or if you're in the US, you can text Marketing Boost, all one word, to 44222. Now, this free guide will help you put forth the best first impression you can give to a potential client that visits you online. And it's filled with simple tasks that you can do. And over the course of 4 weeks, you'll be in the perfect position to attract those new clients. And now, on to this week's Resource of the Week. Now, I chose this week's resource because of the question of the week that I will get to at the end of the podcast. The question came in from Toby. But when I read Toby's question, it made me think of this perfect resource to share with you this week. And that resource is Sync by iThemes. Now, if you run or if you manage WordPress websites, one of the things you know takes up a lot of time is just keeping up with all the updates. The more plugins you have, the more often you have to update things. And sometimes it's almost a daily basis that you would have to be in there updating things. Well, that's where iThemes Sync comes in. It allows you to manage all the WordPress websites under your control in one environment. So instead of going to each site individually and checking to see if there's updates, you just log into your Sync dashboard and it has all your WordPress sites there. And it'll tell you which plugins need to be updated, which themes need to be updated, which versions of WordPress need to be updated. And you can update them all from that one location across all your websites without having to go individually log into each one of them. And something else that's really great about iThemes Sync is you can get daily updates emailed to you, letting you know exactly what plugins have updates available for them, or themes, or when WordPress does. And then you can look quickly and see what plugins you have installed on what sites and whether it's worth taking the time today to go and update those plugins. And if you don't think it's that pressing, you can put it off and you don't have to worry about those sites. So I have all my clients' websites, including my own websites, all linked through my Sync dashboard, which makes it so easy to keep track of my updates. And best of all, it's absolutely free for up to 10 websites. So if you're managing under 10 websites, you've got no reason not to give this a try. So please check it out by visiting resourcefuldesigner.com/sync. That's SYNC. And save yourself a lot of time not having to visit each individual site when it comes time to update them. And now, what to do when you mess up a graphic design project? Now, I'm sorry, I'm going to take out my soapbox here and maybe go on a little bit of a rant, I don't know, but this is something that I came across a couple of weeks ago and I just shook my head at it. And maybe I'm wrong, and if I am, or if you have a different opinion than what I'm going to discuss, please leave me a comment on my show notes page by visiting resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 30 and let me know what you think. But this is what I want to talk about. I mentioned before that I like to visit certain Facebook groups that have to do with graphic design. There's a couple of them that I participate in on a regular basis, and there's actually quite a few of them that I belong to that I rarely ever visit. Some of them I used to, and I've just grown not to like them as much. But the other day, or actually it's a couple of weeks ago now, I was visiting one of the groups that I haven't gone to in quite a while. And I was just scrolling through the different topics and threads of conversations that were going on. And I came across one where this guy was asking the group their opinion on a question he had. Now, I'm going to paraphrase kind of what he talked about because he went into really in-depth detail in his question. But the gist of it is, he had designed the artwork for a flyer for one of his clients. And after getting the flyer approved and signed off from the client then took that artwork and sent it to a printer to have printed. Now, after getting the printed flyer back, the client noticed an error on the flyer. And they contacted the designer, stating that the error was his fault, and they demanded that he fix the error and that he pay for a reprint of the flyer. Now, if I was to stop and I was to ask your opinion right there, what do you think? I would be hoping that you would say that the error is not the designer's fault. The client signed off on the proof, which means that any error found afterwards is their responsibility. And I would agree with you there. But here's the situation. The guy posting the question continued and stated that the client had looked at a proof, had proofread the whole thing, verified all the facts and everything, but instead of signing off on it, had sent back the request for one thing to be changed. So the designer made that one requested change, but somehow, while making that change, something else on the flyer ended up changing. And when he sent the new proof back to the client, they only looked at the thing they had asked to have changed and saw that it was changed to the way they wanted. So they approved the flyer and it ended up going to print. So now when you start hearing this, the argument from the client is that when they looked at the first proof, that section of the flyer was okay. But when he sent the final proof with the one correction they asked him to make, that other section, they never looked at it again because it was okay in the previous proof. But now, for some reason, there was an error in it. And this is where the whole argument ensued. And reading through the comments on this Facebook post, I just couldn't help but shake my head because it was almost a 50-50 draw where people were arguing back and forth saying that, no, this is definitely the client's problem because the client signed off on the proof. They should have re-proofread the entire brochure all over again. It's their responsibility. And then the other half of the people commenting were saying that it's the designer's fault because the client had already seen that section of the flyer and everything was okay with it. And it wasn't until he sent the final proof that there was an error there, but the client had no reason to re-proofread that part of it because they had already done so and it was okay. And there was a very heated discussion on this whole mess. And after reading that, I thought, this is something I have to bring up in the podcast. Because this designer in the Facebook group, he was trying to get out of having to pay to have the flyers reprinted. He had no problem fixing the artwork. It's just he didn't think it was his responsibility to pay for a new printing of the job because the client was unhappy. Now, as I said, it was about a 50-50 draw with people going back and forth and quite some heated discussion and some comments that I personally think were quite uncalled for amongst some of the people in the discussion. But my opinion on the whole matter, and I did not share in the discussion, I did not post my opinion there. There was enough people going back and forth, but my opinion is the designer was at fault. Now, in the discussion in the Facebook group, the designer stated that in his contract, he states that the client is responsible to make sure that the final copy that they sign off on is correct and that he is not responsible for any errors on that final copy once the client has approved it. And that's where he was putting his stand, saying that that's the final copy. It was their responsibility to check it. Now, I'm sorry, but I completely disagree with him. Yes, it was a good thing to have that stance in his contract, to say that once the client approves the job, they take full responsibility for anything and they can't come back after the designer. But the fact of the matter is, the client had practically approved everything. They had said they liked the proof, everything looked good. Can you please just change this one word? So because that ended up not being the final proof, and the designer changed that one word to the word that the client wanted it to be, and then sent back another proof, at that point, I don't expect the client to reread and reproof the entire brochure. In their eyes, they've already done that except for that one word that they weren't willing to sign off on until they saw it corrected. Now, what would have happened if the client would have sent back the proof and saying, this project is approved, just change this one word and then we're good to go? And I know that's happened to me sometimes when I've sent a final proof out to a client and they'll send me back the proof saying, the job is approved with this one change. And sometimes it's like add a period to the end of this sentence and then we're good to go. Well, in that case, if that had happened to this guy, then yeah, he definitely would have been in the wrong. But he's claiming that since he sent another proof for them to sign off on, he's wiped his hand of the whole mess and it's their responsibility. Well, I disagree. As a graphic designer, we do have a lot of responsibility when it comes to any of the designs we create. Now, if you're doing a website or something online, a banner ad that's going to appear on some website, and you make a mistake in it, it's not really a big deal to fix it. There's really no cost involved. The client will let you know there's a spelling mistake or something else wrong with it. You take a few minutes, you fix it, you re-upload the new file, and there you're done. But when it comes to a case of a printed job, there could be hundreds, if not thousands of dollars invested in the final product. And if there's something wrong with it, it could very well be your responsibility as the designer. I had something similar happen to me a couple of months ago. I was doing some business cards for a client, and this is a client I've had for a while. And every year their board of directors changes, and I do a new set of business card for whoever's new on the board. Now, there was 14 different business cards, and I sent off the proof to my contact at the organization, and they sent back to me that the only mistake was one of the names on the card was McDonald with just MC instead of MacDonald, M-A-C. So they asked me just to remove the A from his name. Very simple. I called up the file, I removed the A, printed off another proof, and send it off to the client for approval. Now, somewhere in that process, what I think I ended up doing was I opened up the file, I made the change, I made the PDF to send the client, and I must have closed the file without saving it somehow. Because after they gave me the approval that card was okay, and also telling me that all the cards were okay, I then opened up the file again to create the print ready files to send off to the printer because the card had bleeds on it and everything. So the proofs, I didn't send them with bleeds. I sent them actual size, but the actual files I was sending to the printer, I wanted to put crop marks and bleeds and everything on it. So I just opened up the file, created a new PDF that had all the bleeds and everything on it, and then sent it off to the printer to have all the business cards made. Well, once the client got the cards in hand, they called me up and they said, Mark, what happened here? We had asked you to remove the A from the name, and yet the cards we got have the A. And I says, well, I removed it. I know I did. I remember sending you the proof. So I opened up my file, and sure enough, the file I had, the A was still there. So that's why I said the only thing I could think of is I made the change and I just forgot to save it. So whenever I reopened it up again, the name had the A in it. Well, in a case like that, I was fully responsible. It was 100% on me. And yes, I ended up paying to have those cards reprinted. Now, luckily in that case, the cost of reprinting that one card was less than the profits I was making on the print job. Because if you remember correctly, I've told you before that I also do print brokering. So I make money off the printing. Well, luckily the cost of redoing that one card, it just ate into my profits. It means I didn't make as much on the printing part of that job, but I didn't actually lose any money. And that was lucky for me. But I fully admitted that was my error. And that's what I was hoping this guy in the Facebook group was doing. But he was leaning on the side of the client signed off on the proof. It's their responsibility. I don't have to pay to reprint the job. And he was, I guess, arguing with his client. At least he was telling us that he was doing this. Now, as I said, maybe you have a different point of view. Maybe you stand with him and say, the client signed off on this proof and there was an error on that proof. And because they signed off on it, it's fully 100% their responsibility. Regardless if the previous proof, that section of it was okay, they should have re-proofread the whole thing. Maybe that's your stance. I don't believe that. I think in a case like that, the designer is responsible for that error, even if the client signed off on the final proof. Because there was no reason for them to go and proofread that section again after they had already proofread it and found that there was nothing wrong with it. As I said before, I would love to get your comments on this one. Please, resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 30, and let me know if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, if you think the client should have paid to have them reprinted, or if you think the designer should be the one paying. I would love to get your opinion. But all of this to say that as a graphic designer, mistakes are bound to happen. Now, as I mentioned earlier, if you make a mistake doing a website or something, that's easy. Quick fix, no money lost. But sometimes if you're creating printed piece, or if you're creating, say, t-shirts, trade show displays, billboards, all sorts of stuff, sometimes mistakes will happen. And it's up to you to hone up to your mistakes. Admit that you are in error and take responsibility for it, even if it does cost you money. And the reason I say this is if this happens, the client will appreciate you that much more. They will respect you for the fact that you have admitted that you made a mistake. And they would be more inclined to recommend you to others, saying, this person, this designer has a lot of integrity. They made a mistake and they honed up to it and said, yes, this is my mistake. I'll take responsibility for it. Because I can guarantee you that that guy in the Facebook group that posted the question, he admitted that he's been arguing back and forth with his client who's responsible. I can guarantee you that even if he ends up paying to have those flyers reprinted, that client's never going to go back to him again. Or I know I wouldn't. If this guy is hemming and hawing and saying it's not my fault, it's your fault, even if he ends up paying for it, his reputation is shot, his integrity is shot, and who knows how that'll hurt his business down the line if word gets out or if this client starts talking about him. It's not worth it. You're better off to take the hit in your pocketbook now and recoup it over time with new projects coming in from that same client and through clients that they may recommend. Now, I don't know if this designer in the Facebook group was thinking that this was a one-time client and he'd never be dealing with him again anyways, so what did it matter? But there's the whole reputation thing, and you don't know. You never know what'll happen down the road. Maybe the person you're dealing with isn't at this company anymore. They've moved to another company and now you're trying to get work from them and they remember you. It could come back and haunt you. The very first website that I started, when I started my business, I was still working at the printing company and I'd started doing websites on the side. The very first website I ever designed never got launched. And the reason was I had sent an email out to the client requesting more information. They hadn't sent me all the copy, the content to go on the website. And I waited and I waited. And of course, I was doing this in the evenings and part-time because I had a full-time day job. And plus, we had a couple of young kids at the time and all the activities. So I was quite busy. So whenever I wasn't hearing back from the client, I didn't really think much of it. And I wasn't reaching out to them to kind of follow up on it because to me, it was a part-time gig I was doing. And if they wanted to take their time, so be it. Well, it ended up that quite a few weeks went by and I hadn't heard anything till finally I received an email from the client telling me that they were upset that they hadn't had their website finished. They were expecting it done by now and that they've decided that they're going to hire somebody else to do the website, somebody more competent than myself. And I reached out to them and I says, what are you talking about? I sent you an email saying that I was waiting for the content. That's all I was waiting for. I had the website designed. I just needed the actual copy to go on the website. And they replied that they had sent me that email with all the content that I had requested the same day I had asked for it. But I never received that email from them. So in their mind's eye, they had given me the stuff, and all the weeks that had passed by where I was waiting for them to get back to me, they were waiting for me to get back to them because they thought they had supplied everything. And when I said that I never got it, their response was, well, then why didn't you follow up? Why did it take so long and you never reached out to us again to look for it? And anyways, long story short, I lost that contract. They refused to pay me for the work I had done up to that point because they said I was incompetent and I had never actually shown them anything. I had come up with everything and I was waiting for the content in order to show them what I had. So as far as they were concerned, I had never actually done anything for them. And I can tell you that now 11, almost 12 years later, that person, that woman that I was dealing with at that company has never wanted to have anything to do with me since. So this isn't the same as what I was talking about messing up earlier, but it just goes to show you that sometimes whenever you do mess up, it can come back and hurt you. So why take those risks? Why fight a client? You should never be fighting with a client. It's okay to have open discussion. It's okay to have a difference of opinion with them, as long as you handle it cordially and discuss it like civilized people. But to have an outright argument with a client over something should never, ever take place. So that was the topic I wanted to cover this week. I know it was short and a little bit of a soapbox here. I wanted to just almost vent what I saw. I was a little upset after seeing that Facebook group and just how many people were siding with the designer, saying that he was right. The client had signed off on the job, so they were 100% responsible. And I just didn't see it that way. As far as I was concerned, the graphic designer messed up somehow and he should have admitted to it. So once again, do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Please leave me a comment, resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 30. I would love to know your take. Let's have a civilized discussion about it. So now, as I mentioned at the beginning when I gave you my resource of the week, I do have a question this week, and this one comes in from Toby. And Toby wrote, "Hey there, Mark. I have a question for you that hopefully you may be able to shine some light on. I check up on my clients' sites fairly often just to make sure everything is up and running and in working order. And just recently, I noticed that a particular plugin that I have used for multiple clients' pages are no longer functioning as the provider has changed their API, essentially breaking the plugin. I've said all that to get to my question, which is how do I handle explaining it to my clients, some of whom may not be understanding, that their site is broken and it's not my fault. I have not informed any of them yet, as they are past clients and I have not worked with them in a few months. But seeing as when I handed the website over to them, everything was working as it should, and now it's not due to something out of my control. If they notice and then come to me for a fix, would I be in the wrong to charge them to fix this? Thank you so much for your knowledge and help." Well, Toby, first off, thank you very much for the question. And this one's a little tough. I guess it all depends on what you have in your contract. And I do hope you are using a contract for your work. I'm going to have an episode coming up in a few weeks that'll be discussing contracts. But you should definitely have something in your contract that specifies some sort of warranty period for how long you guarantee the website. And you should have wording in your contract just to let your clients know up front that things in web design and on the internet, things break. Web browsers come out with new versions, plugins come and go, themes change, all sorts of things could happen to a website. And you have to have that stated in your contract that this stuff beyond your control is not your responsibility and that at some point something may happen to your website. So I always recommend putting some sort of warranty period. Now for myself, I always state 6 months. So if I build a website from the day I hand it over, I guarantee that the website will work for 6 months. And in my case, if something breaks, if a plugin is no longer working or whatever, I will fix that on my dime within that 6-month period. But anything beyond that 6-month period, the client has to understand that there will be a cost involved with fixing anything. Now, I state this just for stuff like updates or things that break or browser fixes or whatever the case may be. This does not cover finding spelling errors after the fact or wanting to add some pages or delete something from the website. Not the day-to-day website usage. I'm just talking about the functionality of the website, the behind the scenes, how the website works. I give in my contract, it states that for 6 months after the day that I hand the website over to them or the day this website launches, I will take care of anything that breaks on it. And if it means finding a new plugin and doing some changes to the website, so be it. It'll eat in a little bit to my dime, but my client is happy. Now, the other option is to charge a maintenance fee. And if you do this, then you don't really have to have the whole warranty period covered in your contract. If you charge a maintenance fee to maintain your client's website, a monthly fee, say, and that covers updating plugins and stuff like that, and that fee would also cover replacing any plugins or themes or whatever, should they break at any point. Now, I know this doesn't really help you, Toby, because you're saying that this has happened and now you're looking at a way to approach your client. And if you don't already have a maintenance fee structure in place, or if your contract didn't specify a certain warranty period, I hope that you do learn from this and do include it in future contracts just to help you cover in case of this situation. But in this case, what I would do is I would just be honest, contact the client and say, I noticed I was checking your website and doing some updates or some behind the scenes maintenance that I do. Maybe your client's not even aware that you do these maintenance. I know I have some clients that When I'll tell them that I noticed something was broken on their website, they say, well, what do you mean? We didn't notice anything. And I'll tell them, well, no, I go in behind the scenes in the dashboard behind, and I noticed that something was broken and I had to take care of that. And they said, you do that? We didn't know that you took care of that stuff. And it's not that I have a maintenance thing. It's just I happened to notice something and I decided to go in and check it of my own accord. But in your situation, just be honest with them. Reach out and tell them that when you built the website, everything was working. But since then, one of the products that you used to help build their website is no longer functioning and you have to find something different. Now, what you could do is give them a discount. If you do want to charge them for it, offer them a discount and tell them that you can either remove that functionality from the website, whatever the plugin did. You can tell them that the plugin's not working anymore. So they have a choice of removing it from the website altogether, in which case I wouldn't charge them to do that. You just turn the plugin off, hopefully, and that'll take care of it. Or tell them that you can go in and fix it at a discounted price. I personally wouldn't charge them full price, especially after in your question that you said it's only been a few months. So in that case, I would either just offer to do it free of charge, or as I said, give them a big discount. Now, if it's a website that's like a year old and you notice something like this, then I would go in and tell them that, there'd be a small fee in order to change it. And you can tell them what the fee would be right up front. Just say it's going to cost you $50, $100, $200, whatever your price is. But I personally wouldn't do that unless the site has been up and running for at least a year. Anything under a year, and then I would offer them a discount in order to fix it because it hasn't been that long. Once again, I highly recommend, if it's not already in your contract, either include a maintenance fee, and if you don't want to do that, if your client doesn't want to pay a maintenance fee, then include some sort of warranty period. I mean, there's not that many things that you can buy these days that don't come with some sort of limited warranty or lifetime warranty. Now, I wouldn't offer lifetime warranty, obviously, but some sort of warranty, and it should be a specified amount of time. Whether you want to say it's 3 months, as I said, I do 6 months myself, and that's always worked for me. Now, I had a similar situation I think it's probably just over a year now. Maybe it hasn't been that long. Anyways, where I had a gallery, one of my clients had a photo gallery on their website, and I noticed that there was an issue with it when I was building another website for a second client or another client, and they wanted a photo gallery. So I decided to put the same gallery in, and I noticed that the plugin was no longer available. I was looking for it and I couldn't find that plugin anywhere. And then I realized that the developer had stopped working on it and had discontinued the plugin. So I ended up finding a new plugin for that second client's website. Then when I went to check the first one, I noticed that the photo gallery wasn't working anymore. Now, my client never noticed, and I just took it upon myself because it hadn't been that long. I forget how many months since I had designed the first website. So I just took it upon myself to go in and install a completely different plugin, reconfigure it, made the page look as close as I could to the way the old plugin made it look. And then I just reached out to my client and told them that I noticed that the plugin was broken for your gallery, so I had to go in and fix it. And I just wanted to let you know, in case you looked at the gallery page and you noticed that something had changed slightly. And that was a client that, as far as I knew, it's a one-time client. I only did the one job from them and I hadn't heard from them since. But again, it all comes down to reputation in that, because I do know that recently I was contacted by somebody about a website. Now, I haven't got the job from them yet, and I don't know if I will, but I do know that my name was given to them by this other client, that I had fixed their photo gallery without them even knowing that there was a problem with it. They were impressed enough whenever I reached out and told them what I had done that they passed my name on to somebody else. So sometimes it's nice to do those little extra things for people without charging them, as long as it's within a certain amount of time. As I said, after a year, if that happens, then yeah, I would charge the client for it. So I hope that answers your question, Toby. If anybody disagrees with me or has their own opinion on Toby's question, please leave a comment on the show notes page. Once again, that's resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 30, and let Toby know what you think. So if you have a question you'd like to ask me about dealing with clients, about running your graphic design business, or about anything related to our field, please reach out by visiting my feedback form at resourcefuldesigner.com/feedback and leaving me a message there, or you can email me directly at feedback@resourcefuldesigner.com. Now, in next week's episode, I'll be discussing selling yourself as a graphic designer. In the meantime, if you do find yourself with a few minutes, I would really appreciate it if you headed over to resourcefuldesigner.com/iTunes, which will redirect you to the iTunes page for this podcast, where you can leave a review for the show. Now, so far, all my reviews have come from the USA, so I'm putting a little challenge out to those of you that are outside of the US. Head to your local iTunes store. You could use the same link, resourcefuldesigner.com/iTunes, and leave a review there. Now, I've got a handy service that'll let me know when there's a review left for me anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter what iTunes store you frequent. If you leave a review, I will get it. So I thank you in advance for that. If you want to follow me on Facebook, the address is facebook.com/resourcefuldesigner. On Twitter, I'm resourcefuld. And before I go, I just want to remind you of this week's resource, which is iTheme Sync, where you can manage up to 10 WordPress websites absolutely free of charge. Over that, there is a fee. I think it's like $50 a year, which is not very much. But I use it and it makes it so easy and so fast to update all the plugins and themes and WordPress sites across all my clients' websites. So check that out, resourcefuldesigner.com/sync, SYNC. So until next time, I hope you're having a great week and that you're designing some amazing stuff. I'm Mark Decote, reminding you to stay creative.
Thanks for listening to the Resourceful Designer Podcast at resourcefuldesigner.com.